The story continues as Lambda arrive in Oriana Kingdom's capital with some backup, and Omega wonders if that's all the help they're getting. Lambda reassures Omega that more reinforcements are coming. She's going back to organize the next group. There's something she needs to check with the people on site. Kai then tell her that Rose is rumored to have joined the enemy. Lambda agrees, explaining that Rose might have made this choice under tough circumstances. Still, Lambda emphasizes that Rose's disobedience has put her teammates in danger, and as her instructor, she feels responsible for passing judgment. Kai steps in, saying Lambda can't handle this anymore. Even the powerful Seven Shadows no longer have control over the situation. Lambda realizes that Shadow has taken charge of dealing with the matter. Omega adds that Lord Shadow is known for delivering harsh judgments to those who oppose them. She emphasizes that once Shadow decides on a plan, nobody can stand in his way. Meanwhile, we catch Sid practicing what he's going to say when he confronts Princess Rose. He decides that appearing dramatically from the sky in broad daylight might not be the best idea, so he opts to hop over the palace gate. Right before he can execute his plan, Epsilon shows up and invites Sid inside with her. Epsilon shares a unique fact about this country. They hold great respect for anyone whose art deserves it. That's why she can casually stroll into the royal palace whenever she wants. Sid wonders if this is why he is attending as her top student to get access, and Epsilon apologizes for the student reference, as Sid was the one who taught her everything. She then gets her big melons quite close to him. Sid, in his thoughts, notes that her chest feels about 99% slime. He then explained that Epsilon is using intricate magic to adjust her chest, making it move with her center of gravity. It seems like she's putting a lot of effort into this. She then asks Sid if he's thinking something, and he responds by saying he's just appreciating the results of her hard work. Epsilon shifts the conversation to a more serious topic, informing Sid that their spies have successfully infiltrated the palace and are waiting for the right moment. Then Duke Perv arrives and inquires if Epsilon is scheduled to perform this afternoon. Epsilon confirms, mentioning her plan to debut a new piece. Duke Perv expresses anticipation for the performance, and Epsilon shares her hope that her music can bring comfort to Princess Rose, who recently lost her father. However, Duke Perv informs that the princess won't be joining them today. Epsilon, thinking that Duke Perv might be concerned about his fiancée, acknowledges his worry. Duke Perv queries about the young man with Epsilon, and she introduces him as her favorite pupil. Other nobles with Duke Perv express surprise at Epsilon taking on apprentice, and Duke Perv questions if the young man has permission to enter the palace. Epsilon initially thought there wouldn't be an issue as she brought him as her guest, but Duke Perv informs them that the protocol has changed for the day. Epsilon suggests coming another day, but Duke Perv assures it's unnecessary. Instead, he proposes that the young man showcase his skills by playing a piece for them, as the nobles are curious about his musical prowess. As Sid contemplates Duke Perv Asshat's villainous style of dealing with even background character, he decides to respond as a background character who's somewhat skilled at the piano. Sid heads to the piano, sparking curiosity among the audience about Epsilon's apprentice's musical abilities. Sid reflects on the stark contrast between the jaded regular citizens and the luxurious lives of the nobility in this country. Determined to seek vengeance on behalf of the common folk, he begins playing the Moonlight Sonata. The maid in the crowd is captivated by his performance, and the rest of the audience shares a similar reaction. Meanwhile, Sid discreetly pilfers the belongings of the nobles. After the piano performance, Duke Perv asks for Sid's name, but Epsilon steps in, deferring the introduction until Sid completes his training. During their conversation, Sid notices a ring in Duke Perv's pocket, the same ring referred to as the key by 559. Sid takes the ring without revealing its significance. Sid decides to exploring the palace. A maid named Margaret approaches, offering to show Sid around. She reveals her dual role, also entrusted with caring for Princess Rose. Despite Sid's initial reluctance, Margaret insists, and he eventually accepts her offer. The scene shifts to Margaret showing Sid around a garden, expressing admiration for his earlier piano performance. She predicts he'll become a top-class pianist soon and reveals that some nobles are interested in him. Margaret proposes that if Sid works for them, he could earn up to 100 million zeni annually. Sid entertains the idea of becoming a musician to alleviate financial concerns for each gig. Margaret, eager to recruit him for her family, offers to handle everything for him. She becomes clingy, and Sid tries to distance himself. Sid inquires about Princess Rose's current location, and the maid questions if he has an interest in her. She reveals her past fondness for Rose, admiring her kindness and intelligence despite Rose's eccentric interest in barbaric arts like fencing. However, the maid laments the kingdom's current state, attributing its turmoil to Rose. Despite Rose's current whereabouts being a secret, the maid says that she is willing to share this to him, and disclose that Princess Rose has been confined to the West Tower. While escaping Margaret's ramblings, Sid encounters a fat knight who claims to be in love with Margaret. The knight warns Sid not to lay hands on her, as they are in love. However, it becomes apparent that the fat knight is just a misguided stalker. Sid escapes the knight's awkward proclamations. The scene then transitions to Princess Rose in the West Tower, reflecting on the consequences of her decisions for the country. She notices Sid climbing up to meet her, and hugs him, expressing her longing to see him. As they sit and talk, Rose asks Sid how he managed to reach her. Sid reveals he sneaked in as an apprentice to a pianist friend and expresses his intention to discuss her marriage. Rose firmly states that there's nothing to discuss, but Sid presses on, asking if the news about her impending marriage is true. Rose confirms it, and Sid urges her to recall the words she spoke before killing her father. Rose pleads with him not to bring up that painful day and to forget about her, but Sid refuses. He points out their shared struggles. Rose grew up in a kingdom that looked down on fencers, choosing to be a knight despite rejection and loneliness. Sid empathizes, understanding her feelings. Rose insists she'll always understand Sid's dream, even if the world rejects it. Sid then confronts her about the contradiction in her actions. She stayed true to her way of life by stabbing her fiancé and killing her father, but now marrying him seems like a deviation. Sid argues that there's no reason for her to give up now. Rose insists she has nothing more to say and asks Sid to forget about her, urging him to find his own happiness. Sid refuses, stating he needs her. Rose expresses that her only wish is for him to forget her. Duke Perv enters the room, noticing the voices. Rose denies having a visitor, but Perv observes her tear-streaked face. When he tries to touch her, she resists. Perv, angered, grabs her by the neck, emphasizing their impending marriage and the impact on Queen Rhaena's life. Rose agrees to comply, and Sid, overhearing everything, decides to switch to Plan B. He then checks the ring and regrets taking it, wondering if it's the wedding ring. The scene shifts to 559 apologizing for the mission failure, blaming Rose. Epsilon refuses to label Rose a traitor, and plans to promote 559 in the future. Epsilon acknowledges their responsibility for not informing Rose about her mother, and Lord Shadow has taken control of the case. She then tells that Shadow contacted Rose, but didn't punish her, indicating a different plan. The current issue is the ring found in the ruins. Epsilon explains the legends of the Oriana Kingdom using the key's power to defeat enemies. Pressure on Perv might lead to the use of the key, causing catastrophic consequences. Sid emerges from the bath, and the girls pamper him. Sid confidently assures Epsilon that the mentioned issue will be resolved sooner than expected, surprising Epsilon and impressing 559. The scene shifts to Perv having a conversation with Mordred, updating him on the progress of their plan. Mordred emphasizes that if they can reclaim the power of Black Rose, their authority within the cult will be unshakable. He warns Perv to be cautious, as there are signs of potential interference. Perv assures Mordred that he has the Ring of Succession with him at all times, dismissing any concerns. Mordred promises Perv a seat in the Knight of Rounds after their success, but reminds him not to make mistakes before marrying the princess. Perv acknowledges the warning. After the communication ends, Perv boasts that the key, the princess, and the kingdom are already under his control. He laughs and says that now even the Shadow Garden can't do anything to him. Then we see Queen Rhaena arrives looking for him, and it is revealed that they are having an affair. This brings an end to our episode.